We'd like to welcome you to our board meeting. At this time, we're going to call our meeting to order, and we'll have the invocation given by Mrs. Bailey and the pledge by Ms. Gibson.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord, and we just ask you to give us the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to lead this forward in the way that you do today. And Lord, we just pray that you will watch over us and take care of us and take care of our children. We know that we've got a lot of stuff going on, Lord. We just ask for your protection. And Lord, just thank you for everything that you do for us. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, we note that all of our board members are present except Mr. McMillan, and we continue to lift him up in prayers. The superintendent recommends the approval of the meeting agenda.
I make a motion. I second it.
Discussion? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. At this time, we have our second budget hearing for the 2021-2022 school year presented by Mr. Craig Hodge.
Got a second to get set up here. All right. All right. Good evening, and again, thank you for letting me to do these required budget hearings to present our budget. This is our normal meeting, so I'm thankful for the ability to be here. There are a few things that we have to cover, and I talked about that last meeting, and this is what we're required to present. The total amount of resources available to the board from all funding sources. The projected enrollment and expenditures is another requirement. Excuse me. Pardon me. We're required to present the total number of personnel earned and employed at each school. The presentation must also include a clear list of the operating costs by category and function at each school. And finally, we are required to present the resources earned by each school. And along with this presentation, there are the handouts, and we'll try to go back and forth between those. I'm not going to go into extreme detail, but if you have your books you can look at, and in public, if y'all want one, you can request one as well. Good bedtime reading, just want to tell you. Let's start by looking at the proposed budget for 2022. This is what we turn into the state, and this is a very broad view of what our budget looks like. We'll get into a little bit more detail as we go along. Pardon me.
You have some water?
I have some. Thank you. Now, if you look at this slide, this is one that I'll probably talk about the most. This is our total projected revenues for 21-22. And as you can see, the total resources is $51,191,676, which is a huge jump from last year. A little over $13.45 million difference. And I'll tell you, the most of that is from the CARES Act ESSER funds that we have received. Now, we have the ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. Let me find my little note on that, because I believe Ms. Gibson had asked about what exactly was that amount, and between ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 and the ESSER 3 state reserve, there was 13.3 million or so was the total of that, plus the 143,000 difference was the additional normal federal funding that we did receive. So that's why it looks huge, because number one, it is, but we also had 2 years to spend that, or almost 3 years to spend. Let's see, through 3 years, through 2024 to spend ESSER 3. So it looks like a lot of money up front, which it is, but I went ahead and budgeted the revenue, but not all the expenditures. So that's kind of why it looks a little skewed. Also, we talked about what each fund is a little bit last time. The general fund is just that. That's the state and local funds that we can use pretty much at our discretion, but at our discretion means that's payroll mostly. That's 85%, 86% payroll, so we need to look at that. The special revenue or the federal funds. Debt service is exactly that. Capital projects, that's our from our public school funds that we can pay for our capital projects with. And the fiduciary is the non-public school funds. Okay? Pardon me. Let's look at the next slide here. Now, this is the total proposed revenues by source. And again, that's just breaking that down a little bit clearer as far as what state, what is federal, and what is local and other income, other revenues. Okay. If you look at it, this is a graphic demonstration of that. And you can see that the majority, 51%, comes from the state funding, and that is even with the 13 million showing up in extra in our federal revenue, or else the state revenue part of the pie would be much larger. All right. Let's look at just the general fund, because that's the most important one that we're concerned with, because federal funds are pretty well earmarked that we have to spend them in a certain way. But like, again, our general fund is more discretionary. And again, I use that term loosely because we have really very little discretion in how we can spend them. The state funds are mostly designated for certain expenditures. And what little funds we are discretionary do not nearly cover all of the district's expenditures. Our local revenues are discretionary, however, and that's what our tax monies and our ad valorem taxes allows us to do the extra stuff that we need to do. Okay, and this is a graphic demonstration of that, and you can see how much the state revenues is way greater than our local revenues. $24 million of state revenue. Again, I'd like to point out that that's 82% is state revenue, and 18 is the local revenue. 18%. All right. Let's flip over to the expenditure side of that. And the expenditures, most of our expenditures are going to be in instructional services, because that's what we're here for, is to teach kids. So the majority of our expenditures go to instructional services and instructional support services. And if you look at that, it's like 25 million or so, 24 million. If you look at the first two lines together, and I'll flip over to the next slide and then show a graphic demonstration of that. Let me go back for a second. The auxiliary services, most of the categories are kind of self-explanatory, but the auxiliary services, that includes transportation and child nutrition. Other expenditures includes items such as our preschool and extended day programs, and that's the two programs that make up the bulk of the other category of expenditures. All right, and there's the graphic demonstration of that. And that's 53% of our expenditures go to instructional services and instructional support services. And here's our general fund expenditures by category. So that is just the general fund portion of that, and again, broken down by category. And again, a graphic demonstration of that. 73% of our general fund expenditures are budgeted for instructional and instructional support expenditures. And I'll also like to point out that 85% of the general fund is budgeted for salaries and benefits. I think I mentioned that before, 85%. All right, now, I did correct these slides from the previous presentation after looking at it. So if you open your book and look at the section right after the, and I gave you an extra of the sheets that look like this. All right, that I gave you in your packet loose. We need to replace the sheets that were in there because there was an error concerning the technology money. And I went ahead and made sure all the numbers were correct and redid that whole section. But I'm going to show you on these next three slides what the total is for the district. And I did, like I said, I corrected these numbers just a little bit. It was mainly in the allocation part, and not in the actual units or units earned. Okay. All right. So let's look at that. So the units earned sheet. Well, we were just looking at it. The units earned sheet is the same. We had our ADM was 3,052.15 students after the 20-day after Labor Day report, and that was as of last, I guess it was October 2nd or so. So we're coming up on that benchmark again for the next year's funding, for the 2023 funding. And we have an estimate, if you look at the bottom of that sheet, but we'll get to that when we get to about the third slide of this set. It'll kind of show what our guesstimated enrollment's going to be for next year. And this is just based on the numbers from about a week ago. So we get good fresh numbers October and early October. That'll be our report we turn into the state that our funding will be based on. All right. With that funding we earned 177.59 teachers, 8 principals, 2.5 assistant principals, 6.5 counselors, and 7 librarians, and a couple of folks at the Career Academy. All right, this was the section I had to correct. There was an addition error pulling from the other sheets, and I did go back and verify these numbers on this current sheet, and this is correct. This is the salary and fringe benefits and other current expenditures that we earn from the state foundation program. Okay, and all of this is on that first sheet that I was showing you earlier. I'll show y'all too that. But this is just snippets of that sheet. And one thing to notice on this as well, is that where it says total foundation programs, $20,599,000. That's our total allocation. However, we have to have the 10 mil match of our ad valorem, and that is that 1.557 million that we have to kick in with our taxes to make sure we can participate in the foundation program. So that's what that one number that we have to kick in with our local resources. All right. Now, this sheet is where you can see our projected enrollment, and our projected enrollment is 3133, based on those numbers from, like I said, about a week ago. So actually, that's an increase from 2020 numbers, which is a good thing. That's that in-person learning while we're in person. That's the reason for that. So that's a good thing. That will help us gain back those lost units that we were going to lose this year because of lacking enrollment. Excuse me. The bottom little chart on that on the screen there is showing us how many state-earned units, teacher units, other state resources or federal resources for teachers, and how many local units we have. And again, I think I mentioned the only local unit is actually the superintendent, and that's by law that has to be a local unit. So looking at our facts on our budget, 60% of the total budget is spent on salaries and benefits, 60%. 85% of the total general fund budget is on salaries and benefits. And that's a big thing, because that's our discretionary funds, which means we only have 15% of our general fund is just really discretionary after paying salaries. Okay, budgeted revenues in the general fund exceed expenditures by 1.7 million, almost 1.8 million. Part of that, and I think I hit on that last week, is the one-time fund that we have this year called the Teacher Stabilization Fund. It was $887,000, and that is to make up for lost units. The legislature decided to try to boost systems, and like you see a blip in your enrollment dropping and then coming back because of our situation. And so the legislature said, let's put some money into that so we don't lose that many teachers. And that's what it was used for. I think Ms. Gibson also asked about that. How long do we have to spend it, and what can it be used for? It is a one-time fund that has to be spent by September 30th of 2022. So we got the 1 year. It is budgeted entirely in salaries. That's because that's what it's for. So that's where the budget is. It did allow us to budget more there instead of our federal funds, so it kind of relieved some of the federal funds so that we can use that for other programs. The additional, and I said that what the slide said there about it has allowed us to spend federal funds to relieve our general fund budget. The debt service expenditures are budgeted in the amount of $1,629,000, and that is a little bit of an increase because of our bond issue from last year. The one month operating balance in the proposed budget is $2,191,123. The ending fund balances of the proposed budget is $5,786,933, or 2.64 months of operating balance. The ending fund balance does exceed the 1 month's operating balance by $3,595,809, which all that means is we're in really good shape right now. That is kind of a target to be at, is at 2.64. And I think I mentioned last week, because I was also presenting the financials, that when you look at the monthly snapshot of what your 1 month reserve is, I think we were knocking on the door of 3, but there are a lot of expenditures that come up in the last couple of months of the year. So this 2.64 is a really, really good number. I feel like we should be there easily, and that would be a good place to be. All right, do you guys have any questions, comments?
Craig, if I understand right, the projected ending fund balance for September 30th, 2022 is 2.64.
Correct.
Have you got an idea ballpark where we're going to finish up in 2 weeks for 2021?
We should be right around that, which means this number would be increased. I'm conservative with my numbers,
Right.
so I didn't want to over-exaggerate anything. But if we end at this number at 2.6 or higher, then that'll mean we will increase our fund balance by a couple of points, probably. And we should be in the 2.8 range if we finish.
I don't remember what our projected fund balance was this year, but we're going to hit that certainly, right?
We should, yes.
Okay.
We should. I think it was fairly similar
Okay.
last year. Growth is fairly similar. Again, when I budgeted the revenue, I didn't budget a massive increase or a decrease. I just kind of left it pretty flat. And that's, again, trying to be conservative with our revenue. All right.
Board members, any other questions for Mr. Hodge on the second budget hearing? Well, thank you, Mr. Hodge. And Ms. Jones, we will be sure and need to get a approval at the board meeting tonight for that. I think I'm ever I don't know how he does that.
Okay, after hearing the second budget hearing from Mr. Hodge, do I have a motion and a second to approve the 21-22 budget?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries to accept the budget.
Thank you, Bill.
At this time, we will receive financials and bank reconciliations for July 2021. Do I have a motion to approve bills for August 2021?
Does it do it?
I don't know. I took your thing out.
Make a motion. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. Action, consent. Request to approve the continuous improvement plans for each school as presented at the board work session on September 9, 2021.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. The superintendent recommends that the board extend the FFCRA employee leave program, which provides 10 days of paid sick leave for COVID-related isolation or quarantine through September 30th, 2021, and retroactive to August 4th, 2021.
I make a motion. I second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. Approval of contracted services. The superintendent recommends the approval of the following contracted services. A, request to approve payment to Danny Bailey for refinishing gym floor at Centerville Middle School. Payment of $3,800 will be made from Board of Education funds.
I make a motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries affirmative vote. Request to approve payment to Danny Bailey for refinishing auditorium floor at the central office. Payment of $4,000 will be made from Board of Education funds.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. Request to approve payment to Renew Therapy, Ashley Cash, to provide physical therapy to students with current IEPs, October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022. Payment of $70 per initial school evaluation, $70 per hour for student treatments, teacher consults, IEP meetings, screenings, and necessary documentation, plus travel, will be made from IDEA funds.
I make that motion.
I second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. Request to approve payment to OT Resolutions LLC, Kelly Stringfellow, to provide occupational therapy services for students with disabilities, October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022. Payment not to exceed $76,000 plus travel will be made from IDEA funds.
So moved.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. Approval of bids. The superintendent recommends the approval of the following bids. Request to approve bid number 20/21-18, West Lawton High School multi-use facility to Wyatt General Contractors in the amount of $5,676,965.
I make a motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. The superintendent recommends the,
There was discussion. Excuse me.
oh, I'm sorry,
Not too late.
discussion.
No, sir. No, sir.
I'd like for us to consider this when we do construct that building. Do you have any idea, Mr. McGee, after starting, when the starting date would be?
I don't, there's still more paperwork even, it doesn't start tonight with,
Right.
With the
I
board
know
approval.
tonight, but if you
but
got any general
I
idea?
think it takes about 6 weeks from now to get all paperwork from the Division of Construction Management in Montgomery set and settled and satisfied. We're hoping for around November is our target date for the starting of this, but,
November, this coming November.
yeah, yes, sir, couple months.
Football will be over, right?
Well,
Unless we make the
I
playoffs.
hope not, but.
Hopefully not, no, I'm continuing to be more optimistic.
Yes.
But, that's one consideration when it would start due to current activities that we will need.
Sure.
You know, like band and football. But, and another consideration I wish we would think about, when there'll be a considerable amount of earth moving on it.
Yes, sir.
Do you know the parking lot, behind
The back lot back there.
the back lot is called, behind the gym?
Yes, sir.
We could extend that possibly.
Putting the dirt, just moving it on the
Maybe
backside
some
of that
rubble.
hill. Right.
That fill in and then top it with dirt.
Mhm.
I'd like to see somebody, engineer, somebody that knows what they're doing, see what we could do Because we need that space.
I'll definitely talk with the architect and contractor when they come on board to see if we can just move that dirt
I
across
hate to see us have to,
the right.
I know they got to do something with it.
Well, it would cut down on the contractor's cost if they
Right.
could just take it over there instead of hauling it off somewhere, but.
All right, thank you.
I want to say something, Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Is there a possibility that we could, like, you know, when they build a building or something, if they don't get it finished when they say they would, then, you know, the way it is now, it seems like this project at West Lawson has drug out forever and ever. And I know we've had a lot of rain, but if we had something that's saying, if you're not finished by this time, we cut back on some of the money.
Well,
Did we do that? I mean,
the contract does have I'm pretty sure it's 365 days. The cost is set, but the language does allow for weather days. If the weather's good and there's no issues with weather, then certainly that language is in the contract. And we have a project right now that is pushing 30 days overdue, a different one, that is costing the contractor money
So
every
it's
day.
written in the contract.
Right. The contractor is being, final payments being deducted by the day for another project we're working on that should have been completed 30 days ago. So that mechanism's in place,
Okay.
but as far as just a hard date of saying, if it's not finished by, November 30th of 2022, we're gonna withhold money, there aren't any contractors that are gonna go along and sign on with that because you don't know what weather issues you're gonna come across. So, it is frustrating. It's been frustrating to see a couple of these projects that have gone on beyond the projected end date. But that's the nature of a large scope project. It's not, it's not like if you're building a house and you can just, fire the builder because you don't like the pace of work they're doing. This is set, it's in the language of the contract. And yes, there is language that says they will be fined or deducted if they don't finish in time, but invariably over a year's time, they're probably going to earn a few weather days. We just don't know how many that will be. We did have an unseasonably wet June and July, even continuing on through now.
To add to the weather problem due to the COVID
Yes,
situation.
supply
there's been
chain issues
A
are,
lot of delays
there
in
are-
shipping materials that they needed that they can't advance
their supply
until
chain
that's
issues.
built. But so supply has been a problem. And I'd like to add this, I looked to see it completed yesterday before school started.
Absolutely.
And I understand the frustrations of people. But it is what it is, and it's a work in progress, and I can look at it and anyone can tell, it's gonna be a beautiful building, it's gonna really be, in the long run, it'll be worth
Well,
the aggravations, I would say.
we've
But-
had some
but-
dry summers, and if we'd had a really dry summer this year, it would have been finished except for what we know the windows that are
Right,
back
and
there.
I would add this too, I know you've got to have penalties, but I would say this in caution. If you're rushing somebody to build something, they could get it completed faster, but it could be shoddy. You understand what I mean? If you go to rush them, to get it done completed, they can take some shortcuts and the quality of workmanship may not be what we desire. So-
Well, this is a big project, and it will, the scope of it and what it's gonna take is gonna take time. There is language that would fine the contractor if it's not completed on time, but we can't control weather days. That's something that's set by NOAA. The weather people, they have tables and charts that they use for these contractors, and I don't know the exact amount of rain, but if it's maybe a tenth or a quarter of an inch of rain on any given day, they get to count that as a
I would
lost
think,
day.
I would think they'd wanna get through as quickly as they can, so they can move
Move
on
on.
to another side to
Right.
make more money.
But it is,
It's
it's
not
frustrating.
dragging on purpose.
It's frustrating, especially this project, but it has been an extremely wet summer. And, you know, I don't know anybody that at some point in, you know, late July and early August didn't say, I wish it would get one day without us having any rain. But to answer your question, Ms. Daly, there is language in the contract that does provide
Do you know
for
what,
a
are
fine.
they giving us any kind of date right now as far as finishing that project? I mean, I know you can't.
The date, the projected date was yesterday, September 13th, and my understanding is that there were 27 weather days that the contractor could legally take by language of the contract. I've heard from the superintendent on site, we know that the windows for the press box are late. It may be late October before they get there, but we are talking to see if there's some way, as soon as the building can get finished and powered and everything but the windows, if we could go ahead and occupy it and use it and put something temporarily
Just cement it.
over the
Put that
windows.
cement in there, I mean, that would be.
That too. Now, they did pour some cement yesterday and today, and I'm hoping they will get the big part of the slab from the back of the bleachers all the way up to the cages up there poured this week.
You may not know this, but I was curious, talking about pouring, materials. What about the asphalt on the road? Is that gonna, I know, Mr. Law had asked me to consider it as a board member.
Oh,
and
the
asked
going a little extra in the back there.
you. Right,
Um,
right.
We're discussing that with the architect now.
I would think that'd be the time the board, he pointed
Exactly.
out some things that need to be done, and while they're there,
Exactly.
it'd be cheap.
Okay, we had a motion, a second.
I think we had already voted on it, and
And
Mr. Moody had
Aye.
asked for a question, but I think,
I
if
had,
I'm not
I
mistaken,
had y'all back up, I'm
we
sorry.
have already got a vote in the.
all right, so we have affirmative vote.
We do.
And no opposes, okay. All right, the superintendent recommends the approval of the following personnel actions. The superintendent recommends approval of the first year preliminary teams contract for Philip Peak, science teacher, Bibb County High School.
I make a motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. The superintendent recommends approval of the first year preliminary teams contract for Vida Carey, science teacher, Bibb County High School.
Make a motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. Request to approve the employment of Brenda Sanders as receptionist for elementary school effective September 29th.
Make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. Request to approve the employment of Amanda Meadows as paraprofessional instructional aide for an elementary school effective October 1st.
She got to work out a notice.
Make a motion.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. Request to approve the employment of Terry Hetzel as part-time intervention teacher, Bibb County High School, effective October 1st, 2021.
I make a motion.
Second.
Discussion?
I want to know exactly what she's going to be doing. She's not going to be teaching in the classroom for a teacher that should be in the classroom.
She resigned at the last.
Yes, ma'am, I know that, but last year she was teaching
Okay.
math and she was supposed to be a special ed teacher, correct? I just want to make sure what, so exactly, I just want to know what she's going to be doing this year.
I know she's gonna continue on with the after-school program, the CAS program. And, I can, I don't see Mr. Austin here, but I can get that for you.
Okay.
I do know that, you know, she's been the director of the after-school CAS program, and I know she's gonna continue in that vein some. As far as the intervention, the exact, you know, coursework or whatever she's intervening as a teacher in, I'll get that information for you. But she did retire at the last, was it last week or August?
It was last.
Last
Mhm.
week.
To my way of thinking, intervention means try to prevent failure, right? You intervene before they fail.
It's all part of the learning loss to COVID, additional tutoring and work like that. She won't be the teacher of record as far as, I think what you're talking about, she's not gonna be that student's teacher for math or
Intervention.
science or anything. She'll be doing intervention work, which is,
Yeah, I know what intervention is. I know
right.
that.
But as far as
Yeah, I know
the
that
subject, I'll
intervention,
get that
I
for
just
you.
wanna know what
The
you're
subject.
doing. I just wanted to know what you're doing. I know what the word intervention means,
Okay.
so I just wanted to understand what exactly.
Your question though is what subjects will she be intervening in? Okay.
Okay, do we need to postpone that until we get the information, or should we go on and approve it with additional information, or do you want us to get the information?
Yeah, I'd just like to know that, but I don't mind going on and doing it.
That was for me, Billy, not you. I was the one asking, because I wasn't sure.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I think if, someone can, I don't know if we've got a motion on that or not.
We have a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second, so this is discussion.
Uh-huh.
So we either proceed on with a vote at this point or not, sure.
Okay.
We're ready
So
for the
what's
vote.
the
or not?
consensus to go on with the motion, or postpone?
I know what she's doing. I mean, I know that she was last year. I thought it was that happened.
Okay.
I said we table.
Okay. All right, we will rescind the motion in the second and postpone item E until further information is gotten. Request to approve Jalen Gaines as head middle school baseball coach, West Blompton Middle School, and I'm abstaining because of the relationship.
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposes?
3 and 1 abstain.
Abstain. Okay, request to approve Justin Cottingham as head middle school baseball coach, Centerville Middle School.
Make a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. Request to approve Justin Cottingham as junior high assistant football coach, Centerville Middle School. Centerville Middle and Bibb County High School.
I make a motion. I second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposes? Motion carries. Request to approve Nicholas Belvin as junior high assistant football coach, Centerville Middle and Bibb County High School.
I make a motion. Second it.
Discussion?
Got one question.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm not trying to bring the north end against the south end by this question, but the schools are pretty approximate in size, aren't they?
Yes, sir.
Well, by my count, Bibb County's got several more coaches than West Block. And that's, I'd like to see us have more coaches. And where these, all of these employed or these coach, when I say these people, these coaches, are all of them,
Unless it says voluntary, they're
They are
earning
employed
a
already.
supplement. Right, they're earning a supplement.
I know recently though, it seems like we voted on some that were volunteer.
We
Coaches.
have.
but I mean, I'm just asking, I'm not jealous,
The,
but, I
each,
like. to
I'll
look
say
at them.
this, each school has the same allotment and number of coaching positions that can be filled. It may be,
I'm not blaming you.
it may be a matter
You know
of
that.
not being able to fill them, in one place or the other, but they all have the same number of available board supplements, each school.
And ours are just not being fulfilled, right?
I think there are some that are
We
unfilled.
felt
I think there
if
are
we
some
could
that are
get
unfilled.
somebody to coach, that's the problem, we're not.
Exactly. Yes, sir.
Mr. McGee,
Yes, sir.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
I think the Bibb County Quarterback Club voted to fund one supplement for football. So there's actually one extra supplement, but it's funded by the quarterback club. Everyone else has the same, they have the same allocation from the general fund
Right.
for coaches, but that's the only one that I know of, is that there was one extra coach that was funded by their quarterback club. So if Lockton wants to do that, they can do that as well.
I just see it as a problem, since we're competing each other, I want to play on the same level playing field as much as possible. I'm not trying to holler sour grapes.
I
I just
understand.
like to see us have more coaches, if they're qualified.
Well, and
That's a big if, I mean,
we're talking
And that's
right
another
here.
problem.
This is football, but what you're talking about is an issue in other sports in
Right,
West Blockton as
exactly.
well. The baseball, softball, basketball particularly are, it's an issue of filling those positions. They're there, they've just got to be filled by employees willing to step up and do the work.
That's right.
Okay, we have, okay.
I'm so glad.
Okay, we have a motion, second, discussion, all in favor? Opposes? Motion carries, affirmative vote. Request to approve Alan Casper as assistant varsity football coach at Bibb County High School.
Make a motion. Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Opposes? Motion carries. Request to approve Brett Gilbert as assistant varsity baseball coach at Bibb County High School.
I make a motion. Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Opposes? Motion carries. Approval of substitutes. Request to approve the following substitutes. Aisha Holyfield, classroom sub.
Make a motion. Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Opposes? Motion carries. And I did vote on that recommendation. At this time, we have public comment. Did you have anything to say?
Okay, board members, we have a public comment. We have a parent, Mason Parker, who has requested to get on the agenda to address the board regarding the mask issue. Ms. Parker, if you will, state your community, the school you're here on behalf of, if you have any children in school, and you've got 3 to 5 minutes to address the board, and go at this time.
Like you said, my name's Mason Parker. I got 2 kids. One's 8, one is 4 that go to Woodstock Elementary School. He answered one question as far as how much funding y'all were getting through the ESSER funds. Is any of that received because you mandated the mask? Is that how we got it? Or is it just something that's given to you through the CARES and the ARP?
Has nothing to do with that.
Okay, how much from those funds has been allocated in improving, air conditioning, filtration, or ventilation, period, in the schools? Or are we just relying on the masks to mitigate
No,
COVID-19?
We've spent money on air mitigation issues.
Yes, I mean, I read through the minutes where there were, here and there were some AC units, worked on and replaced. Another question I've got, this is off the mask topic. Why did we pay Bibb Medical Center to wax floors at Brent Elementary School? Why would we pay a medical facility to wax floors? I found that in previous minutes. Anybody? Nothing? Camille, you work there.
Mhm.
Why would we pay a medical facility to wax floors at Brent Elementary School? It was $150 per room, max of $2,000.
The floors need to be stripped. and
But why would you pay a medical facility to do that? Why not somebody that deals with floors?
We do think that we would deal with floors
But why would you go to the medical center?
because they strip and wax floors.
Yeah, a medical center. I'm done. Y'all answer my questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Parker. Thank you, Ms. Jones.
Okay, our next board meeting is scheduled October 14th, 2021 at 5 p.m. And we have superintendent's remarks.
Thank you, board members. Thank you, Craig Hodge, for the two budget hearings Thursday. Budget hearing 1 today, budget hearing 2. We'll get those in, get that into, I guess Andy Craig is tomorrow or Thursday. We'll get that in, but thank you, Craig, for your presentation last week and this week. Board members, thank you for coming in today, and thank you for Thursday for the work session. I don't know if I said it Thursday or not, but I want to thank our principals for presenting their CIP plans at the work session on Thursday. And I appreciate the board coming in for the first of the 2 budget hearings. Ms. Jones, that's all I have this time.
Do I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
Make a motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.